ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week. Good friend and colleague, Mr. Ron Momilewski, is back in his high top chair, I'd like to say, high above courtside here, or should I say the 50-yard line, ready to talk some NCAAF and NFL like no other. As I talked to him backstage, at least we're not talking about the NBA right now. So anyways, first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, myself, Amber, Holly, Carol, Bucks, Alan, you name it, we got it. Matthew, come join the community. You'll have a great time, I promise you. And of course, it's AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Terry Smith, go follow him on Facebook and come on back to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, seafood, chops, appetizers, wine. Terry's got it all. He's got 4 subscription plans also. Every 30 days, get a box of protein sent to your front door. The only thing you'll need to have is a spare propane tank. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Ron Momilewski. How are you, Ron?
Oh, doing well today on a sunny Thursday afternoon. I guess that's where we're at now. We had a couple of cold days. It's not cold right now. I guess it's still summer out here.
Yeah, we've had an influx. It's nice out. The wind's starting to pick up a little, and it's starting to feel fall. The leaves are coming down. We got a week and a day before Trick or Treat, and then next Saturday we turn the calendar to November 1st, where I'll be at Chestnut Hill as the BC Fightless Eagles, I should say, will be hosting Notre Dame. So that ought to be a fun one, Ron.
Well, you get an extra hour when we turn the clocks, back. So maybe we could turn BC's clock back 3 months instead of an hour.
It's funny. Friday night, couple big games. I sniffed out one of them. I talked about no one talking about the distraction. I'm talking about Nebraska, Minnesota. I'm talking the fact that Matt Rule's name was brought up on Monday after the Franklin firing, yet there were 7.5 point favorites. One lost team just kind of moving along, hoping maybe to go sheet other than, losing to Ohio State. I think it is. They'll be coming up soon. And maybe potentially be a 2-loss team. They lose. But I asked you the trivia question. Give me a neutral field spread. Ohio State versus Miami, the number 2 team in the country. And you said 10, and I almost fell off my chair. I had 3.5, 4. Miami, 14-point favorites, lose to Louisville, which set up a steam storm on Duke and Georgia Tech, which we'll get to. Thoughts on what happened Friday night, Ron?
Well, the Minnesota one, not surprising at all. That was an important game for me. PJ Fleck finds a way to do these different things. Nebraska hasn't fixed its run defense to the extent that I needed to know that Taylor was going to go, and Minnesota and Fleck, they tend to use the running backs in workhorse roles. So they're not afraid to give Taylor 20 carries if he's up to it. And against that defense, that really helped shorten the game. Their defense came to play, the home crowd. Minnesota just finds a way in these kinds of games. I was impressed with Nebraska's quarterback, Raiola. I think he's making progress. Matt Rule, to me, strikes me as a little bit more of a defensive-minded coach than an offensive-minded coach. So I think there's more things they could do offensively. I think Nebraska's making progress, but I think we just, not we, but other people may have overestimated where they were at this point. Everybody said Matt Rule's third year, he's going to do this, that, and the other. Well, they're still likely to go 8-4, maybe even 9-3. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we anointed them a little too much. And as far as Miami of Florida, Louisville's a good team. I don't think you can take what they do for granted. Miller Moss just throws the ball all over the place. He's capable of doing a lot of things. So it's not surprising to me that Louisville rose to the challenge. I didn't see any horrific errors by the Miami coaching staff, but they didn't exactly do the things they needed to do to pull out the game. So the fact that it became a close game, the fact that there was a little bit of steam, I believe, on Louisville at the end, not surprising to me.
In the ACC, my darling, and I know you talked about him the last couple of years, but was the Georgia Tech team. And the funny story is, I was on the road and up and at him around 4 a.m. on Saturday, so I sent our alert out Friday night around 9:30, obviously before the final of the Miami game. I had the Duke minus 138 money line, and I had their team total over, and they closed it around minus 185, 190, Ron, and the whole game was lost. What was it, on the first drive? Duke's first and goal from the 1, about to go up 7-0. Fumbled. Georgia Tech picks it up, runs 99 yards to take a 7-0 lead. That flip-flop, that's a 14-point flip-flop. And then again, Duke had first and goal from the 1 and ended up with 3 points. Surprised at Georgia Tech, or was it Duke's ineptness that sent Georgia Tech to the winner's circle?
Not surprised at Georgia Tech. Unfortunate for Duke. I had Duke also in that particular game, actually. So obviously disappointed with the results. I thought Duke situationally was in a very good spot. Historically, with the week off and how they were ready for this game and the data in this game and everything, pointed to them in some good categories. That's why I took Duke. It wasn't really that I was down on Georgia Tech. It's that I was high on Duke. So I'm okay with how Georgia Tech performed and disappointed in Duke.
I talked to Matt Grissom earlier today. We were talking about Georgia Tech and the rest of their schedule and maybe a trip at NC State. And then other than that, the finale, of course, on Thanksgiving weekend, the rivalry weekend, they play at Georgia, which is not a conference game anyways. But I think you might get a Georgia Tech undefeated between the hedges and still doesn't matter and into that SEC championship game.
Yeah, the important thing, ACC teams and Big 12 teams are going to be judged by how they do against the SEC and the Big 10. That's just a fact of life right now. Regardless of whether Georgia has one loss or whatever, maybe they stumble along the way. Maybe they look ahead a little bit. They could have lost to Duke, like you said, a big turnaround at the beginning of that particular game. If Georgia Tech plays Georgia tooth and nail and loses that game, they're still in the running for a 12-team playoff spot. But if they lose by 2 touchdowns against an SEC team, and now you've got Notre Dame in the mix who barely lost to some teams and other teams that barely lost, it's an important game from an eye test for the committee, for everybody to see how, no matter how you feel about Georgia Tech, their record or whatever, how they stack up against Georgia is just going to carry a lot of weight.
Well, the talk all year has been Miami as high as number 2. Let's say they sheet and then here comes a Georgia Tech team with one loss just to Georgia. And then you get down to that situation if they meet up in a championship match, a two-loss Georgia Tech team. You know, we had the same scenario, Ron, it seems, last year, I think, with SMU.
Yeah.
So at this point, last question on the ACC, is it one, two teams, you think, right now?
I think it's closer to 2 than to 1, but a lot depends on how many teams get into the Big Ten. Right now, unless Michigan beats Ohio State or something else fishy happens with Washington, Iowa, you name the teams, USC and stuff like that, the Big Ten may only get 3 teams in, which could open up a spot. And then Notre Dame might have to run the table. So there could be a spot open up. I think it's a 2-team league if they don't stumble upon one another. I think it's warranted that some of these other leagues get 2 teams in there, but let's hope that the results show us that there's cream at the top.
SEC Roll Tide, my love affair for Simpson. I just think that they're just starting to, first opening day loss at Florida State, 13-point favorites. Haven't looked back since. Traveled to South Carolina, Georgia. Listen, Lane Kiffin and company put a whooping on him for a while. I didn't say a whooping, but it was a great 2.5, 3 quarters. Georgia and Coach Kirby says, hold my beer, and the onslaught in the fourth quarter there. Thoughts on the SEC? Are we now starting to see the cream rise to the top, Ron?
Yeah, I think this is a 4 or 5 team bid league, which is what I said before. The interesting thing about Alabama, now they've won 4 in a row against Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Tennessee, all quality teams. There's not much to dislike about this team. You talked about Simpson. They have some semblance of a running game. They have playmakers in a lot of places. They defend the pass relatively well. Special teams are decent. They can't stop the run. They literally have allowed over 6 yards a carry in those 4 wins. Now, whether South Carolina is the right team to run the ball and control clock and keep Simpson out of rhythm, that remains to be seen. Whether LSU is that team, whether Oklahoma is that team, I think they're going to have a very tough time at the end of the year beating Auburn. It's just one of those, that rivalry. I think they're going to have a tough time there. I think they're going to stumble one more time. Now, does that mean they're out of the playoffs? Not at all. I think we may be looking at a scenario that 9-3 team from the SEC gets in, and they may even be 10-2. But there's still a flaw with Alabama. They have not looked good defending the run.
Big game in Norman, Oklahoma. Mateer is back, got a couple games under his belt. His sea legs. In comes Kiffin, big game Kiffin. Off a loss. Both teams with 1 loss. Of course, Oklahoma's only lost a couple weeks ago against Texas. Thoughts on this game here? The number opened at 5.5, which is a big number. Seeing some 5s out there, but thoughts on must win for who, or can whoever loses this game have 2 losses? Are they now out?
I think 10-2 gets either one of them in, but obviously the loser of this game then has to run the table the rest of the way. I think there's room for a lot of 10-2 teams this year. My thought on this game is that Mississippi might be exposed here. We'll see. Offensively, this is the best defense they're going to face most likely in Oklahoma. They really stuff you at the line of scrimmage. And I expect if you're looking at certain players, some of the players are going to underperform to the numbers you're going to see in the prop market this week as far as Mississippi. The other thing Mississippi has to do is they have to play better defense. I think I mentioned to you last week, I think this Mississippi team, if they faced last year's Mississippi team, would be a 7-point underdog. And I still believe that last year's team was better. Now, they can still get into the playoffs because this schedule is better for them. Even if they lose this game, they can still get in there. but they got to keep this close. They can't look bad. They have to come with their A game or A minus game. Kiffin's a quality coach. I know there's rumors out there about Florida, this, that, and whatever. To me, in this day and age of nil and everything else, that's a that's a sideways move. There's no real reason to get in front of that alumni base at Florida. I don't think that's the most fantastic job in the world. I'd much rather stay at Ole Miss. Concentrate on this game. We'll see how healthy Mateer is. I give the edge to Oklahoma straight up, but we'll see. They have to play it on the field.
All right. So the laughing stock of La La Land, the start of the season, was the UCLA Bruins. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. They were just abysmal. There goes the coach, and then here comes Penn State. They're 22, 23-point underdogs. They win outright. They win again. They win again. They've won 3 in a row, Rod, and hats off for not quitting. I was going to say Nussmeier. I was thinking of LSU already there. But my point to you is now they travel to Indiana, the darling of this year's NCAA, and they are favored, Ron, by 25 or 25 and a half. Is that a fair number, or is that just total disrespect to not what the Bruins record is, not how they started, but where they actually are right now, Ron?
It's a hard number for me to project because during the last 3-4 weeks, as much as I love Indiana, and people know that I love that program and what they've accomplished, I root for them and stuff like that. My power rating on Indiana has consistently been about 3 points lower than market. So I haven't jumped them up because they just tend to beat these bigger name schools. Now, I did go against them when they played Iowa. Iowa's just such a pesky team. We know how it could be 2002 or it could be 2025. We know exactly what Iowa brings to the table. Mediocre quarterback play, takeaway defense, run defense,
good special teams.
Yeah, very good special teams. Absolutely. Thank you. So what I tried to do with this game is isolate UCLA's last 3 games and say the first 4 games don't matter. What do the stat sheets look like only in the last 3 games? So what I found is that this team is running at a recklessly better pace these last 3 games, even though they played Penn State and Michigan State, decent run defenses and so on. This team has stepped it up offensively. I mean, really stepped it up offensively. So you have to throw out the offense the first 4 games. Defensively, they're still vulnerable in a lot of spots. And Indiana with run pass balance probably gets the job done. Cignetti is a obviously no nonsense guy. He's going to really hone into them, get this done. Probably the best thing that happened for Indiana is that UCLA is 3-0 lately because they're not going to take them lightly. They're going to be focused. So I have no real opinion on the spread. Actually, no opinion at all on the spread. But I will say this. If UCLA can use the last 3 weeks of offense, especially the way they're running the ball, as a springboard for how they can perform against Indiana, they'll keep it within the number. If Indiana has their way against the run and forces UCLA to just do one thing, it may be differently. I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA, just because their last 3 weeks offense, it's just night and day better. And the quality of competition is actually harder the last 3 weeks than it was the first 4 weeks. UNLV doesn't have much of a defense. New Mexico, they scored 10 points on New Mexico's defense. And the Northwestern has a decent defense, but you're not going to, normally you wouldn't confuse it with Penn State. And Indiana has an above average, but not necessarily a shutdown defense.
2 more questions in college, and we'll head over to the NFL. Job on the line, Brian Kelly, already a couple losses. They host undefeated A&M. Maybe like Miami, we've been waiting for a bump. Night game. We know the difference between a noontime, 3:30 time, and Baton Rouge. Obviously, at 7:30 at night. Yet A&M's favored by 2.5. Ron.
The curse of the 12-team playoff. When you're eliminated from that, like a Penn State back-to-back losses and then a third loss, and when you have high expectations and you don't meet them, you let down and your season is over. From that standpoint, this is a critical game for LSU because if they lose this, all their preseason goals are gone. They will have lost to Mississippi, Vanderbilt, and A&M. They're not going to the 12-team playoff. And yet so then they go to Alabama after that, and they have Oklahoma at the end of the year, both road games. Theoretically, they're not going anyway, but they will lose interest if they lose this game. And this is a good setup for them. This series has been historically incredibly skewed to the home team. They have to get off the Vandy. You know, if I'm the coach, I'll often put myself in the locker room and say, what would be my pep talk to the team? I'm saying that, hey, Vandy's beating everybody this year. They're special. They're just riding on whatever. We lost to them by 7, but we were right in that particular game. Let's regroup. Let's beat A&M. A&M just gave up 42 points to Petrino in Arkansas. We can get this done. Now, theoretically, A&M's a little bit better if you look at the matchup, but I tend to think that there's no excuse for LSU not to be competitive and possibly win this game.
Well, you set up my perfect lead-in because I smell rat here. And that's Vandy and Diego and company. They were 2.5-point favorites against LSU. They win that game by 7. In comes Missouri, and they're still only 2.5-point favorites. Now, listen, Ron, I was born at night, not last night. Something smells here. I am either Missouri or pass, and I'm not a big fan of Missouri.
Yeah, so I would have made this game 4.5. So it is a little lower. I didn't have the latest odds. So you're telling me it's about 2.5 right now. The problem is I don't really want to get in the way of Vanderbilt and their special season. I would if I thought there was an opponent that I thought could do this. But in reality, I don't think Missouri's as good as their record. Now they get the overtime win, so everybody's feeling great and stuff like that. They lost only by 3 to Alabama, but remember they were down by 10 and they scored late to get to 3. Their first game, they didn't even leave their home stadium until last week. Their first 6 games were at home, and now they're going at Auburn and then at Vandy. I'm not crazy about the Missouri situation. I understand from a statistical standpoint why Missouri should be in consideration, maybe even heavy consideration. It wouldn't shock me, but I honestly don't think this Missouri team is as good as their record. So based on that, I'm going to sit on the sidelines.
NFL tonight, Minnesota travels to the Chargers. Chargers got their butts whooped. Congrats to Ron Rivera and his number 1 seed, Indianapolis Colts. Mr. Taylor, Daniel Jones out there looking like Peyton Manning, or I don't know. It's just amazing how they're playing. But where I'm going with this is the Minnesota Vikings. What else could Sam Darnold have done? 14-1 and then lose again to end the year. Then obviously a very bad performance in the playoffs. Draft J.J. McCarthy, and we saw a couple games of J.J. We saw 1 quarter of real football against the Bears, and then quote-unquote wink-wink at home, high ankle sprain. Haven't seen him since. Kevin O'Connell, I know this was a hard decision. Must be how bad he feels right now about this kid. Sticking with Carson Wentz. Big opportunity for both teams. I think the sense of urgency is really on the Chargers side. But I'm going to preface this, Ron, this way first. Are the Vikings having buyer's remorse in drafting J.J. McCarthy?
I don't think so. But they're having buyer's remorse and not developing him for 2 years instead of 1. sitting on the bench because of his injury. He couldn't get reps. He got mental reps, but he didn't necessarily get physical reps. This is not a perfect world anymore. You draft a quarterback because you want to get to the Super Bowl. You want to do this, that, and whatever. You can't sit on mediocre. That coaching staff does wonderful things with quarterbacks. Hence, because Carson Wentz isn't even as good as how he performed. But with that team and Justin Jefferson, he's performing to a high level. I think they wish they had Sam Darnold another year because other than the last 2 games, he was performing at an extremely high level and very confident. He learned a lot in that system. He learned a lot from being in San Francisco the year before, and he's performed very well in Seattle, obviously. So not buyer's remorse in McCarthy, but we knew it was a coin flip whether or not he was the right guy. It's a coin flip with any of these quarterbacks, Trey Lance, so on and so forth. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't. More tend not to work out. It's an important game for many, not a deal breaker, but it sure would make things easier if they if they beat the Chargers at a time when the Chargers are still reeling from important injuries.
All right, let's get to it. I live 45 minutes from Gillette. Listen, we got fortunate at this point, Ron. Christmas Eve a couple years ago, you were probably sipping on some eggnog. I'm at a family event in Bridgewater, and there's the Patriots lining up for a walk-off field goal in Denver, and we're like, what are you doing? There goes our Jaden Daniels pick. We go, from 1 to 3. From 2 to 3. Drake May, historic numbers, what this guy has done the last month. Now, look at who he's played now. Listen, we can go back and say, A-Chain doesn't step out of bounds, they lose that game, okay? And then insert Carolina. Okay, that was your get fat game. But what really jump-started them was that win in Buffalo. And then real hard to do in the NFL, to win 3 straight road games, insert the Saints, insert the Titans. Now they come back home, 7-point favorites against the Browns, now 6.5. Ron, have you seen a quarterback in 1 month blossom like this before?
Yeah, what you didn't mention is the last 3 games have all been on the road.
3 straight.
So he had to go road on the road. That is not easy. I don't care that it was Tennessee, the 3rd road game. Obviously Tennessee was in complete disarray. You still have to perform road. And what did they do? They beat Buffalo as a over touchdown favorite. They go to New Orleans, a team that's 100% trying in a give and take game, and they steal that game. They win that game by 6. And then they improve by winning by 31-13 in their next road game. So again, like I say, winning is contagious, especially for new staffs, whatever. Their offensive coordinator, 3rd time around where he's been in New England. He's obviously been a very big asset to Drake May. The schedule has been soft, but the schedule is going to stay soft. That's what they got. They got the 4th place schedule. The Jets are still in the NFL. They haven't been relegated yet. So they haven't even played the Jets, and they get to play the Jets twice. So they're squarely in the playoff mix. And of course, they're thinking with our schedule, maybe we're a threat to win the division. It's a great story. They drafted well. We talked about they drafted well. We talked about they won free agency. You can't have too many quick fixes in the NFL, but they did everything they could to make this a winning, to get this into a winning mode as fast as possible. And they couldn't have a better dream trip right now.
Stay in the AFC. I talk a lot about there's about 6 good teams, 6 bad teams, and then the 20 in the middle. It's the every other week situational plays, yada, yada, yada. But It seems like there's about 7 legit teams. There's about 10 or 11 bad teams. And so the meat and potatoes in the middle has gotten slimmer. But the shocker is if there were 10 bad, I'm going to say there's 11 bad teams. 8 of them are from the AFC. Now, we can't do anything about Burrow being injured. Lamar coming back this week, which I'm going to get to. Jets putrid. Miami, McDaniels is fired. We know that. I don't know what's going on with Tua. I think that whole team needs a whole new relook there. I'm telling you, Houston Texans, no O-line, no threat of a running game. Nico concussed. He's got the Iowa State wide receiving core from last year. They're not ready. Dan's Colts just look like a runaway freaking, and then there's Tennessee. Hey, we had the number one pick last year. Yeah, but what else? You don't have a coach, and you're going to probably have the number one pick probably next year, too. So, AFC in shambles run. What are you seeing in the AFC?
Just off the top of my head, if Tennessee has the number one pick, they'll probably get like 5 picks for one, and somebody will trade up for a quarterback. So you could restart the franchise if you have your GM and a head coach with a pulse there. That would be interesting. What I see now is I have my 4th or 5th team has ascended to the number one power ranking. So we've had 4 or 5 different teams. Kansas City has clearly ascended to be the number one team in the league. And the number 2 team for me is the Lions, so it's in the other side. Indy for the first time and Rams for the first time have joined the top 5 or 6. So, and I think Buffalo is going to reset itself. They get 2 guys back on the defensive line that were out for 6 games, PED. We'll see what they do against the run. The offense isn't going away. They have run pass balance. So I firmly expect now that Kansas City and Buffalo are going to excel and be the leaders of their divisions. Do or die for Houston this week to try to get into it. But Indianapolis looks like the clear number 3 seed and maybe number 2 seed if they continue on their path. So we have 3 pretty solid teams. We don't know what's going on with Pittsburgh's division. Important game with Green Bay, the Aaron Rodgers game this week. Pittsburgh's schedule gets tougher later in the season, gets a little compacted as well. We don't know about Baltimore, but we do know their defensive stats are just not good right now. So I can't predict I'm predicting Buffalo will be fine. I can't yet predict that with Baltimore. Joe Burrow and his touch passing, throwing to Chase and throwing to Higgins, maybe they make a big playoff run. I think New England's in the playoffs. And it's just crazy with Denver and the beat up Chargers. So you're right. You're either in the mix or you're like Miami and you're like the Raiders and you're like Tennessee. You're just out of the mix. We have the haves and the have-nots. But there's going to be Buffalo, KC look like that, and Indy. They're ahead of the others. There's clearly ahead of the others.
Green Bay, let's go over to the NFC for a minute here. Green Bay Packers 2-0, make a deal, get Micah Parsons, and everyone was like, oh dear. I mean, they shot to the second favorite before the Eagles had lost one of their 2, and next thing you know, the Packers were the favorites. Then they started chewing their food. They just looked nonchalant. They just were, they didn't look good. Kind of played a little grab ass against Cincinnati. They played it again last week against Arizona. And where I'm going with this, Ron, is the Philadelphia Eagles, who had lost 2 in a row, go to Minnesota. And Jalen Hurts says, all right, guys, hold my beer. And they showed you what the defending champs can look like on any given Sunday for 60 minutes. You talked about the Rogers Bowl. Here's a Pittsburgh Steelers team that has a 3-game lead, 2.5-game lead in the division. But we know Baltimore will be coming. In comes Green Bay. Which Green Bay team do we see, number 1? And number 2, more pressure on Rodgers? Or is it time for Green Bay to wake up and be that team that some people thought they were supposed to be a few weeks ago?
Less pressure on Rodgers, more pressure on Pittsburgh's defense, which was a no-show. It's been a no-show a couple of times a week. With Watt healthy, I expected a lot more out of this defense. I know a couple of his compatriots haven't been completely healthy, but Watt was supposed to dictate play much the same way that Parsons and Hutchinson and Hendrickson, some of these other guys are doing. Watt's trying to do his part, but the other guys haven't come through behind him. And there's been some penalties in the back end. That defense has to play better for Pittsburgh because they lost to Cincinnati. So they're 0-1 in their division right there. And they've got 2 games against Baltimore. They wish they would have played Baltimore already because Baltimore hasn't looked good. Instead, they may play Baltimore when they're, starting to gel. So there's no clear-cut answer as to who's going to win the division. Pressure on Pittsburgh's defense. With Jordan Love and the whole Green Bay team, there's two train of thoughts. Number one, I think it's clear they haven't played their best football. They just haven't, like you said, playing with their food. Number two, how do we know they're going to be playing their best football? Maybe this is their best football. And that's the answer that we're all struggling with. Is this near their ceiling, or does Jordan Love get on one of those runs where he has 18 touchdowns and 1 interception like he's had once or twice already in his career? I know the receivers are in and out with health, but that's not the problem. They're interchangeable anyway. They have enough good ones. They have solid tight ends. They have a run game. They're just not firing on all cylinders. So my biggest question for them is, what's their highest level? What's their ceiling? And I don't know what their ceiling is. I wish I had the crystal ball, but we need to find out.
Last question, NFL. Denver should have lost last week. Let's be realistic here.
Yeah.
The one thing Jackson Dart couldn't do was turn that ball over. If he threw it out of the stadium, if he threw it, just don't take a knee. As soon as he turns it over, the Avalanche, they get outscored 33-13. 40, was it 46 points in the fourth? It's just insanity. Maybe that jump starts finally the Denver offense, who's 5-2. In comes Dallas, 3-1. CeeDee Lamb's back. Dak, I'm telling you, the MVP no one's talking about has never had a better year. Wow, has Pickens fit right in. Offensive line creating some great holes. A little Javonte Williams revenge game coming in. Ferguson is the binky for Dak here. What wins this game, the Dallas offense or the Denver defense?
Yeah, it's interesting because nobody in this day and age of the NFL used to say defense wins championships. Probably still true because the weather turns in December and January. In fact, all the playoffs are in January now. So defense may win championships, but in the regular season with the rules, offense wins the regular season. So you saw Denver allow a whole bunch of points to the New York Giants. Why wouldn't they allow a whole bunch of points to Dallas? Because Dak, like you said, he's got, everywhere he turns, he's got quality. He's got Chase opposite Pickens. Isn't that fantastic? He's got Ferguson. His offensive line has allowed 8 sacks in 6 or 7 games. His running game isn't perfect, you would say, but they're running almost 5 yards a carry. I don't know where that's coming from, even though they don't, Williams is doing great, maybe above my expectations. And Denver, they have 34 sacks for the year, far and away the best. They had 4 against the Giants, but they still allowed all those points. So as much as Dallas doesn't play defense, it wouldn't surprise me if Dallas was highly competitive in this game. And I take you back to teams like Dallas and Carolina. They're happy right now. They're winning games. People wrote them off when they tied each other, but it was really close. I can't remember if that game ended in a tie or not, but whatever, it was really close. And so you're looking at 2 teams that are in good spirits. They think they have a playoff shot. Whether they do or not doesn't matter to me. It's what they believe in the locker room. And teams like that are dangerous. So that makes Dallas dangerous.
It's if you're not already, head on over to X at Ron A Sports. Go follow him there. But as we always wrap up this segment of the show, Ron, I give you that nice tight spiral, that 7-yard button hook for Ron's closing thoughts.
Oh my goodness, I think I'm going to go out of my comfort zone here. So bear with me, Jeff. I like the fact that this show talks about process, and we talk about teams, and we talk about situations where we may buy low or sell high in a team, but we don't say, give me New York Giants plus this, give me this and this and this, like some of the other shows. It's a word of caution to anybody who's listening to this show or any show. Be very careful. I just have to put on my handicapping hat right now. I'm seeing too many people in our space, your space. You do a lot of shows that are straying from fundamentals. they're going around and it's not working. So now they're betting first halves, or they're betting in game. They're doing a lot of different things. When you have a down week or whatever, you go back to your roots, you go back to your model, you access your model. Are you using the same model you used 10 years ago, but the game has changed, the kickoff rules? Are you valuing special teams? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? I think, I mean, football is a very weird shape. It could bounce in many different ways. A touchdown can bounce off. We saw a fumble that was recovered in the end zone for a touchdown a couple of days ago, here, there, whatever, college, NFL, and stuff like that. It's not an exact science. We're trying to hit 55%, 57 or more. You could have a mediocre week and stuff like that. But please, the stuff that I'm seeing and I'm listening to, it's going off the rails a little bit. Go back to fundamentals, get the knowledge, learn the line of scrimmage things, do the things that your shows try to teach people, as far as why do you think this team is firing or not firing? Why, who has the advantage at the line of scrimmage? Please don't start making plays that you would never have made if you were on a winning streak. I just had to get that off my chest, because fundamentally, we're all on the air to provide information to other people and to brainstorm. That's the whole purpose of Chris and I. We're just shooting ideas off one another. Some of them don't work, and some of them bring a nice revelation to ourselves and to others. But my goodness, we're getting off track with some of the stuff that's online.
I couldn't have said it any better, Ron, and I'm so glad that you said this. This is our 10th year of public service. We debuted January 1st, 2015, and so much has changed since day one, and PASPA being passed, and COVID, and today's revelation of coaches and NBA players involved with the mob, and fixing of games and point shaving, or illegal poker games. But what you said, you said something that I've been stressing for a while. There are so many people on social media that what they were doing is they're sending out plays, or they're coming up on stage. They can be whoever they want, and they're giving you an arm's length of games pre-flop. And then what's happening is, when you see them, they go, well, we didn't do well pre-flop, but I got into live betting. I got back in at halftime, and I made money. Well, what about the guys that was listening and the gals that were listening to you? Did you tell them that you're going in live? Did you tell them that you came back at halftime? No. Now the funny thing is, the whole world now, no one picks sides. No one picks totals. We just play the props. So everyone can hold hands and sing Kumbaya and just play a boatload of props. And if we lose, you know what it is, Ron? It's only entertainment. It's just entertainment. What's a couple bucks between friends? And you know this from doing shows with me, how many years. We pivoted 3-4 years ago with the team totals. I wanted to stay off the beaten path, so I'm trying to find some edges myself. Hey, not a lot of people are talking team totals here, and we've been very, very successful. But as you know, the market gets sharper and sharper, so it's not that easy pickings. But thank you for getting out of your comfort zone, because it's so true, because anyone can be whoever they want on social media. And if they have the right approach, if they have the right tone, the right smile, they have more hair than me, they're not gray, they have this great following, and then all the big platforms want them because everyone's watching and listening, but they're not listening to the content, Ron, and that's the key.
Yeah, I'm sad, because I like the brainstorming aspect of what some shows go. There's some really good people out there, and even some of the people that have strayed, they can be better than giving out props and stuff. I mean, there's a market for props. I give out props on Sundays. I do a lot of unders, but I give out some overs just to test myself here and there, and they've worked out very well. But that should not be your meat and potatoes. That's a good way for people following you to get limited. The meat and potatoes should always be the straight plays. how you handle that with parlays, how you massage the different bets, how you correlate different things. There is an art to that some of the very best know how to deal with it. So I'm not saying don't do completely just straight plays or whatever, but find your foundation and then go from there. Please, some of this other stuff, you're doing a disservice.
No, and again, there is a time and place, and I want to make it clear. I wasn't poo-pooing the props or the prop market, because there is a prop market there, and you're very, very sharp and successful there. I wish I could see over the desk to see your sheet once in a while for those props. But anyways, I want to shout out Russ as always. Thank you, Russ. Hey, keep rolling. You've been so successful this year. Why? Well, that guy named Jonathan Taylor leads the NFL in touchdowns, leads the NFL in rushing, and your offensive line has been stellar, keeping Daniel Jones up. Your defense has been great. And again, it's almost like I'm watching, and I'm not comparing the two, but I'm kind of watching last year's Sam Darnold, where it was clicking with Crisco, and the same thing. Daniel Jones, calm, cool, collected, and it's on a great run. Keep it up. Maybe the Patriots will see you, somewhere down the line. So, from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Ron Marmolevsky at Ron A Sports. Go follow Ron. Ron, any work that they can find, and I forgot to make sure that you tell them about your podcast and stuff with Chris and everyone else.
Yeah, so on Wednesday, Chris and I brainstorm an hour and a half's worth of brainstorming, really going into detail what we did right, what we did wrong, topics of the day. We talked about use of timeouts, for example, yesterday, and how that's so people don't understand how to use timeouts. And then we get into a little bit of the theory and our current work, and we test each other with the week 8 games, whatever the games are this week. Ted and I do the Inside Blitz right before this show, normally on Thursdays, and occasional guest appearances. No written work right now that's out there.
And we will make sure I post this on the timeline. Me and Ron always work together on Thursdays, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. But next week will be my daughter's 27th birthday. I will be in the North End in Boston celebrating. So me and Ron are going to try to come on Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I'll make sure that, again, I will post that. If we do change back to Friday, on Halloween, we'll get there as well. So, again, thank you, everyone. Big shout out, Mr. Russell Saylor. Matt T says, love the show. Thank you all for the information. Matt, thank you as well. Guys, behave yourself. There's NFL. There's some college games. You got a boatload of hockey today. World Series starts tomorrow. Have some fun. Stay in your lanes and stay tuned.